We are spending more than twice as much money on education today than we were 40 years ago, and the results have declined.
I don't know if school funding's really the problem. I think, student spending is apparently at an all-time high in the United States. It's something around $10,000 a student. And if we're spending that much money on students, like per student, it's pretty clear that it's not a funding issue. It's more of the way it's approached and the way the system is handled and privatized.
In American schools, you have to take a certain amount of core requirements, 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 4 years of history. Of course, it depends on the school district, but those are usually the same. In British schools, however, that degree of general liberal arts study, even if you will, is not present.
I would say the biggest difference I've noticed between schools in Canada and Ontario and schools here in Virginia is that a lot of the study in Ontario is independently based.
I guess the school in Bolivia is more outdoors. There's more like open space because of the time, it's more like the climate, it's more like nicer. So it's like a whole different experience than here in the United States.
We are divided in two kinds of students. One is for science, like we learn all science without geography, history, and like government class, but it's not government class. And another kind of students are arts students. They learn geography, history, and government.
I'd say the biggest difference I found was the motivation, like the overall motivation for schooling and getting a good education, getting into a good college. Because all my classmates would talk about getting into the top universities in Korea or the US or Europe. So they were all very academically motivated. And then I come here and I find some people are that way, others not so much.
There are no Saturday schools in the US, and you just have a lot more freedom.
We have very heavy security here. There's, metal detectors, there's an SRO on campus at all times. Students aren't allowed to leave campus. It's very restricted and locked down. Whereas in Canada, it's more of a free reign. You're almost an adult approach, and we're gonna treat you like one.
In Bolivia, you have a little bit more freedom, and the teachers are not as strict as they are in here, which sort of makes it more comfortable to work and get stuff done.
I felt like the teachers had a lot more freedom to be creative and challenge us. So I remember in chemistry, my teacher would have us make models of things with pipe cleaners or little puff balls, stuff like that, because there was a lot more money so that they could try different things.
Well, in Ontario, we start school a bit later. Here in Virginia, we start school at 7:20 in the morning, whereas in Ontario, schools start anywhere from 8 in the morning, I think is the earliest I know of, to as late as 9 in the morning, and lasts usually from between 2:40 to 3:30 o'clock.
Each class time is pretty different. Here is 19 minutes, but in China is 45 minutes, one class.
Tenure is a horrible program.
And I respect that teachers have rights too, but I also think it isn't right for them to just somehow be able to hold on to their job indefinitely.
Also, I've had two teachers who have had severe Alzheimer's and have tenure.
Students should be learning from the teachers.
But when there is a poor teacher, there's no excuse for not removing a teacher.
If we as a nation were to take the lowest performing 6 to 10% of teachers in this country, move them out of education, and replace them just with an average teacher, not the best, just average teachers, we could literally propel ourselves from the bottom where we are to the top, where Finland is.
Our system is much too focused on standardized testing, in my opinion.
In year 10, we take take your GCSEs, which are like a kind of a benchmark study.
We don't really have SOL like testing, but we do have like final exams and midterms and stuff like that.
For university, you take your A-levels, which involves 2 years of study.
In Korea, they have one test that you need to take after or before graduating to get into a college.
And again, you only take those if you want to go to university.
Right now, under No Child Left Behind, all of the assessments are based on one test on one day of the year.
We seem to be in the era right now of measurement mania and quantitative quizzing. Everything has to be assigned a number.
You know, there's nobody in business or athletics that is measured on a single day on a single measure.
That we can't measure everything quantitatively. But there has to be some qualitative measures that work as well.
It takes multiple measures to know whether or not a student is learning and whether or not the system is delivering for those kids. So multiple measures is really essential.
President, I hope you use your bully pulpit to devalue quantitative quizzing and some of the measurements that are going on now and to look at things more holistically.
The biggest thing I would point out is standardized testing in the United States.
The main thing I would say is that I do think the U.S. is almost falling behind on education compared to many other countries.
Mr. President, I would suggest to make class sizes smaller.
We need to place a much more bigger emphasis on studying.
With a large class size, a student can get lost in the class and then they don't get as much attention as they need to succeed in the education system.
We should start a language in kindergarten.
Also, more resources should be made available to students and teachers, because that encourages the creative side of things and also gives teachers more freedom to do maybe activities or projects that will help the students really grasp the material.
I'm hoping that as occurs in many other nations, that we understand the value of that highly qualified teacher.
I think it's something about seeing in every student their particular genius.
And not only understand it and speak to it, but we afford the respect the teacher deserves.
It's about seeing the potential.
The rubber meets the road when the child's in the classroom with the teacher.